The Federal and Devaki Specialty Hospital jointly present the Madurai Marathon 2024 Run for Health on Sunday, October 20th, 2024. Entry is free for all.
Introducing Girish Kasaravalli to anybody for that matter looks like ridiculous for me. The thing is, Girish Kasaravalli is a renowned filmmaker not only in India but across the globe. Recently, his first film or debut film, whatever we may call it, Ghatashraddha, has been screened. It has been restored. First of all, it was curated, protected, preserved and curated for the purpose of rejuvenating a film which is almost forgotten from the point of view of its visuals. And recently, Kasaravalli was in Jaffna, I think, if I am right. There was a Jaffna International Film Festival was there, and his 4 films were screened there. And Kasaravalli has been given Lifetime Achievement Award there. Sir, in this background, we wanted you to talk to you about, first of all, about the Ghatashraddha. Why the problem has arisen? Why this preservation has not been made earlier for not only our films, for most of our Kannada films, which can be considered as classics. What is wrong with our system?
Basically, preserving a film is a very costly affair. In fact, it is time consuming as well as it costs a lot. Unless we get somebody to support financially, it's very difficult to preserve a film. Today, see, preservation of a film is done in 2 stages. One is they digitize the whole thing first, and then they preserve the film. So digitizing may not cost much, but the preservation costs much because, see, once you get the digitized version, then there are a lot of defects. In the sense, it might have developed scratches, it might have lost its contrast. So then one has to really work on it frame by frame. There are 2 ways of doing it. One is one light print, wherein it's not exactly one light print, wherein you take few samples here and there, and using that as the base, you create the whole thing. But there's another way of doing it, going it by frame. So 24 frames per second. A film runs for 2 hours. How many frames? Just imagine. You have to sit and carefully watch each and every frame and adjust whether it has picked up, scratches, whether there are any, fog developed, or there is any, it needs to be this one. So they do it that way. Actually, so contrast has to be done.
Actually, Girish sir, don't you think it is the responsibility of the state rather than a mechanism? There should be a perfect mechanism to protect the visual culture of a country, which is almost akin to any other culture.
In fact, unfortunately, the cinema, the films, are not considered to be the government, the state, do not think it is worthy of preservation. Only recent, about some 10 years, I think 7 years back or so, the government of India decided to preserve the heritage of Indian cinema. So they allocated a huge money for this.
About 600 crores, if I am right.
Correct. Yeah. But then the National Film Archive set up a committee and they wanted to preserve best films in all the languages. And I was heading the Kannada committee, and we recommended about 70 films to preserve. Okay. The yardstick was very simple. Which are these films? Those films which have won national, international recognition, state recognition, films which have done very well at the box office because it has captured the mind of the audience, and then films which are landmark for various other reasons. It could be, the first film without a song, or first film without a background score, whatever it is. So, also taking this thing as a criterion, we recommended about 70 films. But then, unfortunately, National Film Archive was amalgamated with the NFDC. And
You have also protested among various filmmakers at that time.
Because you see, National Film Archive, Films Division, Children's Film Society are not to be looked at as a commercial venture.
Yeah.
Whereas NFDC looks everything from a commercial angle because it's a corporation.
Yeah.
So they have to run the corporation only by raising funds on their own. How do you expect National Film Archive to do that job?
Yeah.
It's actually the job of National Film Archive is to preserve the culture of film.
Yeah.
So now, what they have done is they are giving importance to the language cinema, which are more visible, which are more popular.
Why I am asking this particular question to you is very simple. Actually, your Ghatashraddha there were 2 copies, if I am right. One is at National Film Archives, and another is British Congress Library, something like that. But had these people have not taken, the Martin Scorsese and this India Film Heritage Foundation have not taken it up, it would have been
lost
forever.
In fact, the whole credit of preserving this film should go to Shivendra Singh. Because his Film Heritage Foundation put a lot of efforts. Because he kept on calling me and said, "Where are the people?" I said, "I don't know. It's almost 50 years now. I have forgotten about the film." And my producer also has, the lab is closed. We don't know where the negatives are. And fortunately, what happened, at one moment, we decided to shift the negative to National Film Archive of India.
Okay.
So at least the negative was there. But 3-4 reels were damaged. And, P.K. Nair, who is a pioneer in film archiving, he actually made a dupe negative of all those films. But the dupe cannot be as good as the original.
Yeah.
So when we went for preservation, that was the biggest problem for them. Because some reels are original, some reels are dupe. How do we match them? So that is why it took a lot of time for them, a lot of efforts for them to bring out a print which is of equal, uniform quality. Finally, they did it. And the National Film of Congress, what is it called? Britain, yeah. They actually had a good print.
Okay.
And Shivendra, somehow, he wrote to all the festivals, he wrote to all the government, requesting them to, asking them whether they have a print of Ghatashraddha. Many of them said they have it, but unfortunately all the prints were bad. So he wrote to me also. I said, I also don't have it. Karnataka State doesn't have it. National Film Archive doesn't have it. We all have copies, but are all very poor quality. Finally, he got one from the National Congress.
Actually, this was the fate of your Moru Darigalu also. Can you explain what happened to Moru Darigalu?
Not just Moru Darigalu, all my films negative.
Fine.
Because what has happened is, this one was processed in a lab in Bangalore. That one was processed in a lab in Bangalore. And the lab got closed. So they asked the producer to take the negative. So it's not easy to preserve the negative. So my producer, who was running a small paint dealer, was a paint dealer. He took the paint, this one, and kept it in his paint shop. One day when I went to him in Mumbai, to his paint shop, I said, "Oh my God, this film cannot be preserved like this. Film has to be kept in the lab under
temperature to manage it.
AC and all that." Then we shifted it to National Film Archive. Similar thing happened to all my films because the producers, once they get the money back, then no longer interested in this film. Now, if you want to preserve, Martin Scorsese has spent almost 50 lakhs on this particular film.
Okay.
For Ghatashraddha, to preserve this film. So the producers naturally would ask you how much or what would be the financial difficulties. If they say you don't have any financial, then why would they spend it? Even I don't advise them to spend that much of money to keep my film.
No, that's not the question. The
But
question
the
is,
state, if the state minds it, they should keep this.
yes, that's what I wanted to ask you. We see there are National Film Markets has a unit in Kerala now. I don't know how it's functioning. I heard that it is functioning.
I visited once, they're doing a very good job.
Okay.
They're good. See, there's part of now it's housed within the this complex,
Yeah.
Chelsea Academy complex, and they actually run it on a very professional way.
That's what I wanted to ask. Why the Karnataka Film Academy, which has been in which is in existence from the past 2009, I think it was started in 2009. It's almost 15 years old, and has repeated attempts by the filmmakers and others. It has not taken up the cause, but it's just saying that we are having a repository of culture and other things. And don't you think it is important for the academy of the kind should do all these things?
Yeah. In fact, it needs a kind of a committed person on the surface to do all this job and administration. Because film preservation is not that easy, and it's not one day job. This Martin Conference Foundation almost took about 9 months to preserve the film, or bring out the film. Unfortunately, we don't have manpower. The government has to employ skilled persons to run the archives. We have a godown, but where the films are stored, I'm pretty sure if you go and check, many of the prints would have got spoiled. Because if you simply dump the film there, and especially in the old tin boxes, it gets that rusted, and then the film becomes unwatchable, unusable. I think many of the films have done that, gone like that. So, in National Film Archive, when P.K. Nair was the director, he employed one person. His job is to wind and rewind from morning to evening.
At least air
So
circulation.
that what happens, he would wind and rewind it so that it won't get stick.
Yes.
It won't get stuck to each other there, and it doesn't become sticky. See, the problem is, with the straight page, the film bends, and it gets, once that happens, the images vanish. So one has to be very careful that it doesn't get stuck, it doesn't become sticky. So you need to wind and rewind with a particular chemical and all that. That's the basic thing. After that, is the next stage. How do we preserve that? What kind of important? That, see, some of the very good films made in Kannada do not exist at all.
No, my question is, Girish sir, actually Dungarpur is doing it. Fine, okay. We have a mechanism, because we have a place to do archiving and other things in Karnataka as such. And a committee was formed by the government to look into and submit its report on how to maintain that. But nothing has happened. Don't you think private and public participation will help?
In fact, that's one thing which we should be doing.
Explore.
Right now.
We have to explore that possibility.
We have to make this notion of preserving film heritage as a goal, and the public, make the public aware of that, make the state bureaucracy aware of it. Problem is not passing rules and regulations to implement it. So you need to sensitize the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
About the importance of this art. They would say, why preserve Prema the Prithvi? Somebody says, why is the need?
Yeah.
It's not. See, what happened, many of the people who do not understand the cultural value, significance of this thing, they simply say, why preserve all these things? No, it's a heritage. You need to keep it.
I wanted to know what is the plight of you have made almost 15 plus films in Kannada, and what is the plight of others? Of course, Ghatashraddha is fortunate enough to get.
See, all my negatives are getting spoiled, especially till Dvipa, I think all the names are spoiled. Only the last 4 films are remaining. Because that lab is also closed. They put it in a godown which doesn't have the air conditioning. They keep on writing to us saying that, please take back. But to take back, we have to give the maintenance charges, for which the producers are not interested. Even to spend some 30,000, 40,000, they'll ask what is the deal.
Again, I'm not touching Ghatashraddha, but since Ghatashraddha is your debut film, it is a product after you studied in FTII. Okay. But I wanted to know, you are in a way accidental filmmaker.
Yeah.
Somebody says you are an accidental filmmaker. You have also admitted it before. Can you, why, how?
See, I am basically trying to be a pharmacist. I'm a B pharmacy graduate with a distinction, so I was supposed to join the same college for M pharmacy. My interest was in medicines, and I wanted to, get into after M pharmacy. I wanted to go for research. In between, what happened, for 1 year I had to stay back at my village. And that's when I saw this advertisement. I simply applied and got selected. I said I will study for 3 years and come back and continue in the pharmacy. But everything changed after I joined FTI.
Okay.
Because my FTI days are the most fruitful days in my life.
Yeah.
Eventful, right? And I was exposed to it. So basically, being a science graduate, I wasn't exposed to arts and that kind of art appreciation and things like that. So where you have to discover everything on your own, including even our teachers.
This is despite of your K.V. Subbanna is our uncle?
Yeah, he is my uncle. Well, K.V. Subbanna is the one who was instrumental in initiating me into cinema.
Okay.
Because we all thought cinema is a low art. And when he joined FTI for a brief course in film appreciation, we were all surprised. A poet, a scholar, a thinker like of Subbanna's teacher, why did he study cinema? He go to FTI to study cinema. Then he told me what an important art it is. And he told me about the world cinema. That's how I was introduced to world masters. We only knew the names. We were not even aware of the war of Sochitra. That is the fate. I very often I say this very often. If only Government of India has taken interest to popularize the films of Ray, Ghatak, Sen, Arul, as a pan-Indian this one, the complexion of Indian cinema would have changed. That is happening in Europe. If Bergman makes a film, it is seen in all the other countries of Europe. We don't. See, being in Karnataka, I just imagine I was not aware of the horror of Sochitra. I hadn't seen Pathar Panchali. I saw Pathar Panchali only after I joining FTI. Things would have changed. I know people say very often make this kind of mistake saying that Kannada new cinema movement was inspired by Ray. I was associated with Kannada new film movement. I know none of them knew anything about Ray.
Yeah.
So they thought about cinema not through cinema but from literature. Maybe inspiration was somewhere else. Literature, theatre, things like that. Many of them hadn't even seen the world classics.
So there were three triumvirates at the time. One is Ghatak, one is Mridal Singh, and another is Ray. Of these, if you look at them, it is Ghatak and Mridal Singh took the film from one perspective and Ray looked at it from a different perspective. Maybe the constant feature of their film is poverty and other things. The values of those days, problems of those days are very similar. But these triumvirates made Bengali film, took Bengali film to a different extent. Likewise, in Kerala, if you come to Kerala, it is Arun Gopal Krishnan, Aravindan, Jan Abraham, and others. They took Malayalam film industry to a certain level. The parallel film movement was there in Karnataka since, as you said, long back. We may not call it as the parallel film movement, but they are good films and socially relevant films. Where did we? By the time you started making films, the platform was ready. Don't you think so, Mr. Girish Kasaravalli?
In fact, I was one of those lucky filmmakers who had the platform ready for me to launch myself. Samskara, Vamshaviksha, Kadu, Chomalagiri was all they made. And they made a lot of, not Vamshaviksha, Samskara, Kadu and Chomalagiri was in the national level, discussed on the national level. They also brought international accolades to Kannada films.
You have also worked with the current
associate director
Chomalagiri.
That was, of course, a great experience.
Okay.
I don't neglect that. And but to say that they were inspired by this triumvirate is not true. They were more inspired by Kannada modern literature movement. One could even see that in their films because they were not within quotes. They were very cinematic. You could see their sincerity. You could see their honest approach. But did they really excel in working on the cinematic mediums? No. Barring these three films, Samskara, Kadu and Chomalagiri, the rest of the early Kannada films lacked that kind of a cinematic finesse. Whereas the later Kannada offbeat
Are you talking about the craft or the content, sir?
They were good in content. But they didn't know how to realize that through cinematic means. There were many a times their camera angles didn't support their philosophy. Many a times their music didn't support their philosophy. So there was a kind of a discordance between their ideology or their vision and their implementation. See, that's why I say cinematically it is not perfect. Whereas it didn't happen in Samskara, Chomalagiri, at Kadu to some extent.
It looks a very perfunctory question in an interview, but the question is, have you been inspired more by Ray or Bresson or Bergman or anybody for that matter? Maybe if influence is something different and doing our films is totally a different thing. But who you have got inspired during your FTII days or after start making films?
When we talk about inspiration, we only refer to the films. But my real inspiration is Shivaram Karanth.
He is the one 30-sal film ಮಾಡಿದವರು.
No, not films. I don't like his films at all. No, they're very amateurish.
Those were the times.
No, I don't know about the Bhuta Rajya or the other one, but I'm referring to the Kudiyar Malaya Makkalu, which is very, very raw and amateurish. But I'm talking his fiction, his novels, that and the novels of Kuentu. It broadened my perspective on life. When it comes to craft and cinematic expressions, I would say Japanese masters left a indelible mark on me. Akira Kurosawa and Yasujiro Ozu, two extremes. Yet I like both of them. I like Bergman as well as Presso. People get they say, how can you like Presso if you like Bergman? I said, I still like. Then my favorite Italian filmmaker is not Fellini but Antonio. So there were people like that. Louis Buñuel, for example, Spanish filmmaker. They were the filmmakers who inspired me, taught me how to visualize, how to realize our dreams into celluloid, and transform our dreams into celluloid. Because you see what happens, very often we don't think the cinema has a philosophy. Idiom has a philosophy. All the elements of filmmaking should contribute towards one philosophy. We don't think that. But being at FTA trained, we were exposed to that kind of an argument that it should go in unison towards a kind of a vision of a filmmaker. So these filmmakers taught me how to achieve that. That is one of the reasons why I wrote my book Bimba Bibana, because even in FTA, the books that I read most and valued most are the books on filmmakers and filmmaking.
Yeah.
Antonioni and Antonioni, Godard and Godard, Bergman and Bergman. You may not agree with them, but at least you get the feeling they were thinking on these lines.
Actually, I was coming to that point.
Yeah.
See, funding is a different matter altogether in making a film. But it is basically the content. It is just like a soil. You are making a sculpture out of it. Like the film is like that. Okay, when you are doing that, Ghatashraddha, you were at least raw at that point of time, just out of this one. Maybe you have saw the films. What were the artistic challenges other than the funding and other things you faced? Do you really face the challenge, or it is a cakewalk for you?
See what happens when you are in FGI, you are asked to make films, 2 films a year.
Okay.
So by the time we reach third year, we would have done almost 6 films, 7 films actually.
Okay.
One ad film also. So that makes it 7 films.
Okay.
But also we work with other students in their films. So it is like, in 3 years, it's almost like working in 20-25 films. The very second year student should assist the third year student, final year student. And Janu Baro was final year student and I was his assistant. I had to work with him. And there were people like Arun Kokar, who was a great theoretician. And so that's where our outlook towards cinema, the approach, and every time we make a film, in FTA, people will be very harsh. The students just say, that's bad, this is bad, you shouldn't have done. So that you don't get that kind of feedback in the industry. In the industry, everyone, in front of you, they say all good things, and then when you turn your back, they say all bad. But in FTA, that's one good thing. Professors are there, your colleagues are there. They dissect the film and make you realize where the weakness of the film lies.
Actually, I learned that they have to find people. They used to find the people like Rajiv Tarana to speak about music, how music should be a part of it. So it's a great learning institution.
In fact, it was not Rajiv Tarana, but it's Professor Bhaskar Chandra.
Bhaskar Chandra, I know. Yeah.
And he's a great scholar,
and
a great theoretician, and his knowledge of other arts, cinema, literature, social theories, was very strong. And he was the one who taught music for many, many years. And I think whole generation till the 70s, that is almost for 20 years, 25 years, he taught music for the students.
We have also invited him for the various film appreciation courses where we have attended at the Nina.
And he was very strong on film things. He would explain and question why certain things are needed, used, and things like that. That's a great learning experience for us. Working with Professor Satish Bahadur, getting trained by Professor Satish Bahadur and Professor Bhaskar Chandra was a great experience for us.
But still, in Karnataka, at least in Kannada film scenario, we consider 70s as the golden period. And there are people like you, T.S. Ranga and others who came at that point of time, started making films, and almost every film, including Nagaparna, to Who Did Grahana and other things at that point of time. All these things made that period as a golden period of Kannada film. Then, at that point of time, because of Siddhalingaya and Puttanna Kanagara and others, Kannada film was looked at the national level almost every time. Now we are in the 90th year of Kannada cinema, Girish Kasaravalli, sir. But where exactly we have lost?
So
Is
many
it a broader question? I know.
many a times, people say that that was the golden period and all that. We need to reassess that. I don't think it was golden period at all. For me, the current generation young filmmakers are making far superior films.
Yeah.
And they know the film grammar, they understand the international cinema, they know how to use camera, sound, music, and acting. They have a philosophy for acting. These people, youngsters, they're making better films. But what we lack is the kind of media support that we had in the 70s. Even in bad films or ordinary films are made, the press, Kannada press, made it look like a real great achievement. Many of the good films, so-called good films of that time, heartbreak, are unwatchable today.
Yeah.
Not only unwatchable, you suddenly feel so many defects, so many uncinematic things. But it was some of the names you mentioned. The contemporary, current generation filmmakers are far better than that, and they are making better films. But nobody ever talks about these films, and they are made. They get international.
Kasaravalli, sir, I'm apologetic about it. First of all, see, the present generation, they have all the facility to watch the other films, other country films. There are various platforms they can learn. And the digitalization has given them a lot of opportunity. When you were using the raw stuff, you calculatively you turn your camera, usually operate your camera, because you don't want it to lose the raw stuff, isn't it? Now that's not the thing. But these people can do any kind of experiment, and it is easier now to make a film compared to 70s or 80s even. Celluloid disappeared from Karnataka 2006, I think. From 2006, digital came into being. So don't you think it was a hardship for people like you, Karnad, or B.V. Karant, or Ranga, Siddlinga, and everybody who was capturing the film on the celluloid?
In fact, I read a statement long ago, I think in the 70s or 80s. I only wish that the so-called new cinema movement, the people working in the new film, had learned something from the popular genre film.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you see, Lakshmi Narayan, Putana, Siddhalingaya, they all knew how to use medium. Whereas many of these filmmakers didn't know how to use medium. They know what to say, but they didn't know how to say it. And it becomes very apparent if you see those films now.
Yeah, I can understand.
They are saying something very, very important, very, very significant. But how they are saying is not only ineffective, they are not only uncinematic, they are also contradicting themselves in what they are saying. That's why I am not ready to accept that they were pioneers. And also, that's nothing to do with the format of this one, because that only shows the lack of understanding of this medium. What did prevent them from learning? They simply dismissed Putana, they simply dismissed Lakshmi Narayan. I only wish they sat down, had only they sat down and analyzed what is wrong with Putana, what is wrong with these masters.
There was no kind of introspection at that point of time.
Just because I am shooting in a real location, I am shooting with a stronger story, they would say we are better, which is not true. And also, that is also the time when we totally dismissed good cinema made in other languages.
Sir,
that is probably the biggest problem with the Indian so-called new cinema movement. They never bothered about what is being done in other languages and what is being done in the mainstream cinema. I have lots of problems with mainstream cinema. but nothing to do with their idiom. Everything is with their philosophy, their politics.
Sir, Girish sir, everybody believes that. Many people, I have spoken to many people with regard when we discuss about your films. They say that one thing, your scripting, your script. Your scripts are so meticulous and it can be easily because you work a lot before making it. But as you recently told, your script for Ghatashraddha was rejected by FTI at that point of time. Why so?
There's a big story behind that. I very often jokingly say, I was sandwiched between two Ks. This K, it was sandwiched between these two Ks. One is Karan, one is Karan. The tussle between Karan and Karna, and I became I got sandwiched. So that's the reason why my script was rejected. Not that Karna rejected the script, saying it's a bad script. I don't think he said it.
Just because of its strength.
Because no, he wanted at any cost. I mean, because you see, he was the director of the FJ at the time. He didn't permit me to go and work with Karan, but I refused. And I took leave and came and worked with Karan, which was actually questioning his authority. So he was very upset. So he first rejected my Avshesh, but fortunately what happened, that Shamani was the examiner, James Beveridge was the other examiner. They both voted very high. Shamani said, this is the best. When James Beveridge said, it's not only best from this one. He said, why don't you come to Canada, I'll give you a job right now. But I said, I won't. So, but the next stage was the script.
But
So,
Avashish got the national award
yeah, but at the exam, that came much later.
much later.
So
Yes.
Karnat said it's a bad film, but it was Shamani who said, no, it's an outstanding film. Later, so there are many aspects. One is our diploma film, documentary film, then the written exams, then the script. So in all three I passed, but when it came to written exam, in the script, I submitted Ghatashraddha script. Karnat said it's a bad script. And he won. I said, I was very convinced that I have written a good story, good script. I refused to submit anymore. And then he said he will thrilled my best film award for Avashish. I didn't. So far, I haven't collected that award. I have not collected my diploma also because I'm still not a diploma holder, if you strictly officially speaking. So I refused to do that, and I went and met Sadhana Swana in just 2 weeks, and he liked the script so much. He said, I'm going to fund the film. And then finally, the film was made, and after that, he came and one day, he came to see the film uninvited. I was very happy that, that he didn't, So in one interview recently, when he was introducing, he only recommended Gulabi Takers to a film society here, and he opted to come and, introduce them.
Yeah,
I was
Karan has
very
told me
surprised.
the same thing to me also.
Yeah, I was very surprised that a man of
That's
Karan's stature
Yeah.
willing to come and introduce the film. He came and there he said, it's what a great film this is. And I said, we should have been, quarreling this, but we are still friends, he said. Because I didn't take it very seriously. I'm quite friendly. I was very friendly with him. And he saw Ghatashraddha and was so very immensely pleased with the film. That is another story.
Okay.
No, that's why I said, I was that fight between two K, fight between 2K, and the third K got stuck. I got sandwiched.
So it is just a off-track question. So you have to change your name as Girish Kasaravalli for some reason.
No, actually my name is Girish KG.
KG.
It's Kasaravalli Ganesh Rao.
Ganesh Rao.
Yeah. And our surname is Karan.
Yeah.
So they said, why don't you use Girish Karan? Then YNK made a sliding revert. Oh, Girish Karan and BV Karan. So it becomes Girish Karan. So I thought I used to never use this Karan. I made it Karan only. Kasarvalli is my family name, and my family has said.
No. I heard this anecdote. That's why I asked you.
Yeah. So I wanted to use my village name because I'm greatly
related to it.
Related to my village, and my family name is also Kasaravalli, so I thought I would keep that as.
So another perfectionary question. So I learned that you are enamored by the short stories or the stories or the novels of Anantamurthy, and you have Ghatashraddha is the beginning, and you are doing a film on Akashamattu Beku, I think. What exactly prompted you to take that subject as such?
See, I am greatly inspired. I mean, I like his short stories a lot. Every short story, not so much of his novels, but his short stories. They are so beautifully structured. I am on record saying that anybody could have made a fantastic film over Ghatashraddha. Such a beautiful story, so beautifully structured, and so beautifully with meticulous details and all that. That's one film of mine where I haven't deviated much from the original short story. In all other films, in fact, in some of my films, they do not even resemble the original short story on which they are supposed to be based. That's one thing. What I like in Anantamurthy is that, of course, I have great respect for him as a thinker. He always provokes you to think in 10 different ways.
Yeah.
With one statement. People think quality as controversy or so I don't think so. He always, even when we used to attend his classes very often in Ecuador. You show him any film, you show him any play, you show him let him listen to any, you attend any sessions, he will interpret the film in such a way, or play in such a way that it sets you thinking on 10 different, like even if it's a contemporary play, he would bring in Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Marx and angels, and then Shakespeare and Lawrence, and then he would come to contemporary Poempu, Karam, Lohia, Gandhi. That's why you take this small event and then it starts expanding, then it comes to finally to your own house. That kind of a very encompassing view of the world. I have not heard anyone speaking like that. That's why I always admire his oratory skills, and also like all the 18 volumes of his this one creative writings. I have keep referring to very often.
So Akashamattu Beku.
Now recently, the group of friends from Tirthalli, they decided to do a film about Tirthalli in keeping only the Tirthalli talents in the film. So they said the writer has to be from Tirthalli, the cast artists have to be from Tirthalli, technicians have to be from Tirthalli, and I am from Tirthalli. So they said it's a Taluk centric film. There are only two options, Kuempu and then Anantamurthy amongst the stalwarts. Then I also write some of the youngsters. There are a lot of youngsters who are writing in the short stories and all from Tirthalli. Suddenly I said, why not do this film? Suryan Kudra is one of the great works I have written.
And one has to be very difficult to visualize Hadeventa.
Yeah. But it has already been made into a film. So looking at this.
Very easy. Suryan Kudra
has been made into a film by Panchakshari.
Okay.
So this is another story which a lot of people rated as very high in Kerala.
Yeah.
So very difficult to adopt. I don't say I'm very faithful to this, but I like all other earlier films. I took certain elements and created my own story about this. So it's my tribute to Anantamurthy because he influenced our thinking, our outlook towards life.
Actually, as a matter of fact, all your visual works or films are based on literature, basically Navya literature. So, why you have limited yourself to the literature rather than creating without addressing, looking at the literary texts, looking at the problems of the global or local, whatever it is, the change in circumstances.
See, not all my films are based on Skandinavia.
At least majority.
No, very few. Anandpurti, Chittal, Raghava,
Yeah.
Tejasvi. Tejasvi, I don't want to bracket him in Navya.
Yeah, okay.
But many of them are popular writers,
Yeah.
like Naga,
Naga.
Naga Souza,
That is
Sita Ram.
yeah.
And I also have taken up, Amarish Dhoni and Kumbi. They don't
Yeah.
belong to any of these
Yeah.
slots. You can't put everything in these slots. So what I do is I pick up a story which has some elements with which I can address the contemporary socio-political tensions of my society, my country, and the world also. It's true that I have not written the story personally, but you can't say my films are faithful to the story. It's totally different. Like Mulabitaki is the
Yeah,
only short story, and the film is
absolutely.
Artha Taisa.
Because it will take its own dimension initially, and while you're scripting it.
Correct. And many of my films, including Veep also, a lot of
No, that's why I asked you earlier. Your script is your strength.
yeah.
You can translate any content into visuals, which is universal in nature.
I really, sometimes I feel I should have done independent scripts, but I don't know why I don't get inspired. I get the inspiration only when I read something, and that develops a kind of an argument within my mind, and then I find all these new nuances. I write a story, not at all, taking the novel or the short story into consideration. I just read it, keep it aside.
When I was referring earlier to the parallel films, that is parallel films so from Satyajit Ray, the issues were different at that point. Okay? Over the years, those kind of issues, feudalism and the so-called labor movement, every movement, social movement have been tied with it, on which the films were made in those days, basically as a subject. But now, the problems of the society is different. Don't you think, do you really think the filmmakers of the present generation, new millennium rather, are addressing the real issues of the India, or it is a polarized view of making films in India now?
See, they are addressing a lot of contemporary issues. Problem is not merely addressing. How are they conceptualizing? Are they able to view it in its entirety? That is not happening. Very often, even when we are talking feudal structure, we very often reduce it to individuals. So if you remove one individual, the next individual will come and occupy that seat. We never looked at it as a kind of a two opposing forces, two opposing units. No, we looked at it as individuals. That's why, of course, I have talked very often about Jomanuri, how Sankapaya is not merely a brand name, he is also a representative. He is also oppressed because of British colonial forces and things like that. That kind of a perspective is something which we have. And I don't want to mention the film, but recently there's one very hit film which talked about the lower strata, people from the lower strata taking revenge against them. But everything happens in the individual.
Yeah.
Now that is, unless you look at it as a group, class struggle or caste struggle. It's very easy to say caste struggle. This man belongs to this caste. That is not the caste struggle. Caste struggle is much more complex. I know in my article on Indian population of film, I have written about it. The problem with the Bhakti films, they don't even look at the kind of caste that is there behind Bhakti movement. All these saints, they just eulogize themselves and oh, he was a great man. No, but why didn't he continue? Why didn't he survive? Whether it is Kankalasa or Tukaram or some other Kumbhara, there's some kind of a caste structure operating behind that. And there's a politics behind that. Have you been able to express that? That is something which is not we are not able to bring it to the fore. That is because I think the filmmakers, they only look at films as a not as a cultural or socio-political statement. No. They simply look at it as a kind of potent, even the caste struggle, the class struggle, they look at it for its saleability. So it becomes a product for them. They don't want to get into the deeper thing because if you go deeper into it.
So there is you mean to say there is an initiated audience or visual viewers for that now?
Yeah. So it's very easy. It was very apparent if you see the contemporary Tamil films.
Yeah.
They just want to, highlight one particular caste without going deeper into the caste hierarchical structure of the society. It's easy to say this man oppresses of caste hierarchy. There's a long history of how each community is mobilizing their own strength. That they do. They finally reduce it to A versus B.
Despite that, Kasaravalli sir, the Tamil industry business-wise is doing something, and it's to an extent comfortable. Like the Malayalam industry is also to an extent comfortable. Marathi film industry, for example, is also comfortable. Where they are making all kinds of films, rather Marathi. But when it comes to the 90-year-old Kannada cinema, their most never end. They say people are not coming to the theaters, people are stopped coming to the theater, this is because of the television or the OTT platforms. They are shifting blames. Tu to mein ho gaya, either. But they are not introspecting. Don't you think this is a time for the 90-year-old Kannada film industry to sit together and introspect and to think about how to reinvent to the.
So there are many things, we need to look at it from a greater perspective. See, why did the works of Puttana, Siddhalingaya, did well at the box office? Because their story is related to this land.
Nativity.
Somewhere, the audience should find the film relatable. Now these days, filmmakers do not care for the relatable quality of the film. They want to bring something which are more than life, so that it looks something alien to us. This kind of approach of Kannada filmmakers have driven away the middle class, who are the potential supporter of Kannada cinema, potential supporter of Puttana, Siddhalingaya, Dore Bhagavan, Gita Priya. They don't come to watch these kind of films. So what have happened? There are two things, basically the problem lies with the Kannada film industry also. They have never bothered to introspect. They always look what is happening in Tamil cinema, what is happening in Telugu cinema. They don't look at Malayalam cinema at all. And they try to imitate. So as a result of which, many of our films, if you put the soundtrack off, you don't know whether you are watching a Telugu film or a Kannada film. The culture, the details, the plot, everything, and they are also not rooted. Because of that, people stop. See, when it comes to a comparison, I think we can never compete with Telugu or Tamil because they're pumping huge money even for a small budget film. So, if we had stopped looking to the sides, Tamil and Telugu, and started looking backwards. Backward in the sense of introspection. What was the saint? Why did Schoolmaster was a hit? Why did Bangaramanisha was a hit? And if you have developed a thread down those lines, probably Kannada cinema will start.
Don't you think
There is another problem to it.
Yeah.
Why did it happen? Because Kannada industry was always controlled by the outsiders. When it was a distribution system, it was controlled by Tamil bigwigs. And even now, in OTT, it is controlled by outsiders. That's why they don't care whether it's a Kannada culture or what. They will simply look at the box office collection. If it does well, they will take it. If it is showing Kannada culture, Kannada ethos, say no. If it hasn't done, then it doesn't happen in other languages.
Don't you think these people represent so-called filmmakers or celebrating a kind of violence, celebrating kind of romance, celebrating kind of the emotions, number one, and making it as a spectacle rather than getting into the very pulse of these emotions?
Yeah. Lakshmana once made a very interesting comment about Sharapanja. I thought it's very cynical. At that moment, I thought it's
unkind.
Yes, I thought it's a cynical remark. He said that song was one load of oranges come rolling down. It's a beautiful. Everyone praised it. It's a visually stunning. He said, "Yeah, today they will, the oranges pour the oranges. Tomorrow it will buy. Third day it will be a car, and that's exactly what is happening. Today, how many cars you burn? How many scooters you burn?
It's happening."
So I thought, well, Lakshman was a visionary. We all went gaga over that shot. Said, what a beautiful shot. He said, it is unreal and it is only kind of a seducing effect. And today he said it will be orange, tomorrow it will be car, bike, and third day it will be cars. And it is happening. So, but we need to question that. That kind of things, kind of going outlandish and making only spectacle out of this. It happened in Hollywood also. When this new technology was invented, like, you can show worm coming out of body, that. And they rejoiced that, they went on making films, making such obnoxious things were there in the film. How long did they work? After 5-6 years, they stopped. They totally went back to a story and see, unfortunately, we haven't learned, we haven't even thought about it, because here it's not even filmmaker even say that it's our social responsibility to. But they don't say we have a social responsibility.
You mean to say that it is not only commercial viability of your product or visual product, it should be a social responsibility as well as they're answerable to the society too.
You see, we should. Well, I'm not in a position to say that because none of my films do well at the box office. But I always feel the filmmaker should introspect and find out why did Sharapanjara do well, why did Nagaravu do well, why did Bhutayanamadu, or even for example later Mungaramari. If that is there, why not we do something else? Instead of this violence, instead of imitating the same. Other day I was watching a trailer of a film, I don't want to say the name. I thought some very, few shots in the beginning. It looked stunning. I thought, oh, we are going to see a very good work. And immediately fourth shot, he comes out with a black shirt, pulls out a dagger. Really, from there on, this is going to be usual this one. See, if you have some kind of a touch, I think it works. Like it happened in Kantara. People didn't like it just because of its violence, because also its local color. While saying this, I also know some other films which have no color at all, local
tinge
at all. Yet it makes. But we should not aim at that kind of thing. We should aim at films that have local ethos, yet make her. See, during 60s, 70s, what was the yardstick of a good film? This is 10 rupees is my budget. If it collects 11 rupees, I would call it a hit.
Yes, that's it.
But today, if I spend 10 rupees, I must get 100 rupees. Otherwise, it's not a- See, this whole, our outlook itself towards industry has changed. And that has changed because the players are all, they were all answerable. Like,
Yeah.
Veerasamy, for example.
Yeah.
He was answerable.
Yeah.
He would say, it's my duty, I cannot make this kind of film.
Yes.
Because I am, my visual pictures has its own history.
Yeah.
I cannot make that kind of films. I don't want to make. Even if it, brings me crores of rupees, I am not. See, we don't have that kind of a producer. Everyone is after money.
So, I'm very uncomfortable to ask this question to you, but the thing is, it is a known fact across the Indian cinema, which is cinema industry. Cinema industry is 125 years plus old cinema industry, and ours is a 90-year-old. But this kind of allegations that came up recently, like harassment, sexual harassment rather. Let me be very specific. It is sexual harassment. Exploitation of women in the film industry. And, okay, fine. Kerala film industry government has taken it very seriously. And because of the pressure from the women committee, a small committee of women pressurized the government to hold an inquiry, and that's why Hema committee was appointed, and it probed and gave a very strong report on the plight of women in the film industry as such. Maybe per se it looks like a film industry of Malayalam, but it looks like it's the story of every film industry in. But the way the industry is responding to it, either Tamil industry, Kerala film industry, and it's something shocking for sensible people. In Kannada film industry, they have been silent. Called a meeting, they have been silenced, Girish sir, this time. And I would like to know what is this happening? Do you have any opinion, please?
This Hema committee, this one should be extended not only film, but should be extended
Yeah,
to
you are right.
other
Absolutely.
field.
Yeah.
Because it's happening in all other
Yeah.
field. And unfortunately, only cinema is being projected as, but it's happening women are targeted like anything. It happens in a small reason, like even in public sector, in corporate world and all that. So we should request the government to broaden it and see which are the other areas where women are targeted. Having said that, in industry, yes. Fortunately, I don't belong to that industry. I am actually a outfit filmmaker. We don't, we don't have that kind of a complaint. But I think in mainstream cinema, when I read about interviews, I say such things happen here. I knew such things happen only in Hindi. But now I am surprised to know that it is happening even in smaller as well. Malayalam, which are supposed to be very enlightened and
Well educated,
literate
literate society.
Yeah. But it should be extended and not only to all the other industries, it should also be extended to other fields.
Why I ask this question is it's very simple, this sir. The thing is, others are organized industries, corporate sector, and other industries. You can have a ICC, Internal Complaints Committee, at least under the Section 13, Article 13 of the Constitution and other things. But since the film industry is coming under unorganized sector, don't you think that is the reason why these artists are happening? If it is regulated, like I don't know whether about Europe and other things, how it is being done. But that is the only reason why this is happening.
No, even in European it happens,
Yeah.
and even in the organized sector also this is happening.
Yeah.
It's not coming to the light. I have seen a lot of films. I have heard a lot of stories where such things are happening in the other corporate sector and the banking sector, so things like that. So that's why I said the HEMA committee should be the power of HEMA.
Yeah.
HEMA committee should be
The
expanded,
brief should be explained.
and it should include other sectors also, because it's happening, for example, in politics.
Yeah,
It's happening more rampantly. Politics.
Yeah.
So we know what is happening. If you ask for a favor, you have to
be paid.
pay. So we should expand that and make people aware that if any such favors are demanded, one can report, take legal action.
There should be a mechanism. That's
It's good that Kerala set up HEMA committee. Otherwise, no government has ever
dare
thought
to
of-
do that.
Yeah, they never gave importance because they thought it's happening in all other sectors. Why is that happening? But they didn't realize it shouldn't be happening. It's immoral. It's unethical to let such things happen.
Anyway, I wish you all the best for your next venture, Akashamuttabikku. I am very curious to watch that film, and even many in Karnataka are asking this question: which will be your next film, Kasaravalli sir? Because you took 8 years, if I'm right, 2012 after Kurmavatara you made this project, and it is 2 or 3 year old already.
It's actually 6 years now
Yeah.
since I made
Yeah.
my previous film.
Previous film. So we expect something important, celebrating, right? Let me be very frank. It is celebrating Anantmurthy again, because this is the 14th, I think 10th year of his demise. He left this mortal world in 2014. Now it is 2024. It will be a kind of homage to. Thank you, Girish sir. Thank you very much for talking to me and with patience.
Thank you.
The Federal and Devaki Specialty Hospital jointly present the Madurai Marathon 2024 Run for Health on Sunday, October 20th, 2024. Entry is free for all.